Hi, welcome to this short briefing. We are going to talk about the arming conditions of approach modes. Several guidance modes can be used on Airbus aircraft to fly a specific approach. How to arm them is well known. But before arming these approach modes, you must satisfy some conditions that I'm going to explain to you. In all cases, you must be cleared for the approach by the ATC. This is the first condition. But this is not the only condition. We will see the other conditions in different operational contexts. If you are in nav mode and you intend to use lock glide slope, F-lock F glide slope, or lock modes, before arming the approach mode, the lock or F-lock deviation must be available on the PFD. This is the second condition. And the third condition, you must be on the intercept trajectory for the final approach course. In this first example, the flight crew is clear ILS approach via POMEG. If the approach mode is armed too early, before POMEG, depending on aircraft position, the lateral mode may engage and the aircraft will leave the published trajectory. In this second example, the flight crew is clear air nav approach. If the FLS approach mode is armed too early, the aircraft will leave the published trajectory. To sum up, when clear for approach, check you have a lock F-lock deviation on the PFD and ensure that you are flying on the intercept trajectory before arming the lock glide slope, F-lock F glide slope, or lock modes. If you are in nav mode and you intend to use the final APP mode, the first condition is that you must be cleared. For the second condition, you must arm the approach when the two-way point is the final descent point. The main reason is that the final APP mode is designed to fly the final approach between the final descent point down to the applicable minima or missed approach points. Be aware that in the case of early engagement of final APP, the initial approach may contain a level of segments with altitude constraints. However, the final APP is not designed to fly level of segments, meaning that the altitude constraints may not be respected. Therefore, the death mode is the most appropriate mode to fly the vertical profile of initial approach before reaching the final descent point altitude. To sum up, when clear for approach, before arming the final APP mode, ensure that the two-way point is the final descent point. Then after arming, check the blue arrow on the ND, meaning that all final APP engagement conditions are met. We have seen different approach guidance modes when you are in nav mode before final approach. But what about the conditions if you are radar vectored? If you are radar vectored, all conditions we have previously seen must be respected. In addition, you must manually sequence the flight plan and activate the approach phase in the FMS. When in heading track mode, Airbus recommends to sequence the flight plan by using the DR2 radial-in or DR2 course-in function, depending on your aircraft type. DR2 radial-in or DR2 course-in must not be performed on a waypoint beyond the final descent point, in order to ensure that the vertical profile in final approach is unchanged. And the last point, do not forget to manually activate the approach phase. To sum up, if you are a radar vector, comply with arming conditions. Ensure that your flight plan is sequenced towards the final descent point and the approach phase is activated before arming the approach mode. We have seen that the final descent point is a key point, but what is its definition? The final descent point is the waypoint from which the FMS segment with coded FPA starts. This point is defined in the FMS navigation database by a constant vertical flight path beyond this point, a coded altitude constraint that may be at or above. Here, 4,000 feet at Mike Lima 405. It is essential that the flight crew identifies the final descent point in order to sequence the flight plan from the appropriate waypoint when needed, and to know when to arm the approach mode. To conclude this briefing, as instructor, it is important to highlight to your trainees that the cleared for approach condition is not sufficient. Depending on the type of approach and guidance, other conditions exist and must be respected. Ensure that you have lock-F-lock deviation and you are flying on the intercept trajectory before arming the lock glide slope, F-lock-F glide slope, or lock modes. Ensure that the two waypoint is the final descent point before arming the final APP mode. I hope you enjoy this briefing, and I will see you around for the next one.